Yoido Full Gospel Church is a Pentecostal church affiliated with the Assemblies of God on Yoido in Seoul, South Korea, with about 480,000 members. It is the largest Pentecostal Christian congregation in South Korea and the world. Founded by David Yonggi Cho in 1958, the church is presently led by Pastor Young-hoon Lee. Early years, 1958 to 1961. The Yoido Full Gospel Church was founded by Pastor David Yonggi Cho and his mother-in-law, Choi Ya-shil, both Assemblies of God pastors. On May 15, 1958, a worship service was held in the home of Choi Ya-shil. Apart from the two pastors, only Choi Ya-shil's 3 daughters and one elderly woman, who had come in to escape from the rain, attended the first service. The two pastors began a vigorous campaign of knocking on doors, providing spiritual and humanitarian help to the poor, and praying for the sick. Within months, the church had grown to 50 members, too many to accommodate in Choi Ya-shil's living room. Worship services were accordingly moved to a tent pitched in her backyard. As the church continued to grow over the following months and years, the church outgrew one tent after another. Pastor Cho began preaching on the Threefold Blessing, proclaiming that physical health and financial prosperity are as much a part of God's will for Christians as the salvation of the soul. Inspired by his message of hope and monetary wealth, many previously uncommitted people joined the church, and by the beginning of 1961, membership had grown to 1,000. Having grown too large for its tent, the church purchased its first plot of land at Seodimun, the Seodimun Church, 1961 to 1973. The church's plans for expansion suffered a setback when Pastor Cho was called up for mandatory military service. Fortunately for the church, he was assigned to an American Army base near Seoul, allowing him to continue with his Sunday preaching. With the help of John Hurston, an American missionary, Cho's spell in the Army was short, as ill health required a major operation and a subsequent discharge from the Army. Although ill, Cho continued to pastor the church, and on the 15th of October 1961 an inaugural service was held in the new auditorium that had been built on the plot of land the church had purchased at Seodimun. It was named the Full Gospel Revival Center. Church membership continued to grow, reaching 3,000 by 1964 and 8,000 by 1968. Cho continued to be plagued by ill health, and he suffered a physical collapse while leading a baptismal service one Sunday. Karen Hurston, growing the world's largest church, gospel pub house at this time, Cho decided to restructure the church. Cho divided the city of Seoul into zones, with church members in each zone comprising a cell that would meet on a weekday for worship and Bible study in the home of a cell leader. Cell members were encouraged to invite their friends to attend cell meetings to learn about Jesus Christ. Each cell leader was instructed to train an assistant. When cell membership reached a certain number, it would be divided, with about half of its members joining the new cell led by the person who had been the assistant. Cho later wrote a book in English about this concept of cell multiplication, which has since been emulated by churches throughout the world. Cho believed that women would make ideal cell leaders, having both the time and the desire to make home visits to other members, something that many men, for reasons pertaining to Korean culture as it was at the time, were unwilling to do. His decision to appoint women as cell leaders went against the grain of Korean culture, which at the time was not open to the idea of women leading groups that had male members. He persisted, and the cell concept turned out to be an outstanding success. From 125 cells in 1967, the church has grown to several thousand cells today. Aside from restructuring as a cell-based church, Church. A women's fellowship was started in 1960, followed by a men's fellowship in 1963, to enable lay members to serve the Church in a wide range of volunteer capacities. A church magazine, Faith, was also started in 1967, containing Bible studies, testimonies, and evangelistic messages. This monthly periodical soon spread far beyond Seoul. The Yoido Church, 1973 present. Membership continued to grow rapidly, reaching 10,000 in the early 1970s. Having outgrown its Seodiman premises, the church began looking for a new place to build. Yoido, in the middle of the Han River which winds its way through the heart of Seoul, was at the time little more than sand dunes, without even a bridge to connect it to the city of Seoul. Believing that he had heard from God, Cho and the other leaders of the church decided to purchase a plot of land on Yoi Island. Economic problems, including the 1973 oil shock, which led to spiraling inflation and the loss of jobs for many church members, delayed construction of the new auditorium. However, it was finally finished in 1973, and its inaugural worship service was held on the 19th of August of that year. A month later, Full Gospel Central Church, as it was now known, hosted the 10th Pentecostal World Conference at the Hyeochang Stadium. 55,000 attended, including 5,000 foreigners. Membership of Full Gospel Central Church reached 50,000 by 1977, a figure which doubled in only 2 years. On the 30th of November 1981, membership topped 200,000. By this time, it was the largest single congregation in the world and was recognized as such by the Los Angeles Times. A special worship service was held to celebrate this milestone, with Demos Shakarian, president of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International, as the guest speaker. Beginning in the 1980s, Full Gospel Central Church decided to establish satellite churches throughout the city of Seoul and further afield, as it would not be able to keep on expanding indefinitely. Despite the expansion of the auditorium to seat 12,000 in 1983, 7 Sunday services were insufficient to accommodate the entire membership. As exponential growth continued, reaching 700,000 by 1992, the need for satellite churches became more pressing. Despite the drain of members to the satellite churches, however, new recruits by the mother church brought in through the vast cell network have made up for the losses, and membership stood at 780,000 in 2003. The church was renamed Yoido Full Gospel Church in the 1990s. Its founder, Mr. David Yonggi Cho, has retired as head pastor several times, but the church has run into immediate infighting among the remaining ministers, causing him to come out of retirement, most recently late in 2006. As of 2007, membership stands at 830,000, with 7 Sunday services translated into 16 languages. On the 9th of January 2009, a Sunday church service was featured in a BBC documentary Around the World in 80 Faiths. Architecture and location. In the heart of Seoul, the Yoido Full Gospel Church sits directly across from Korea's National Assembly. The building is large enough to seat 12,000 people, with overflow sent to nearby buildings who watch events in the main church on telescreens. Ministries of the church. Yoido Full Gospel Church has established many ministries as part of its outreach program, both locally and internationally. A representative sample of them follows. In March 1973, the Osanri Prayer Mountain was founded, comprising tiny cubicles in which people may lock themselves to fast and pray. Prayer Mountain now receives more than 1 million visitors a year. including some 50,000 foreigners. In November 1976, Church Growth International, an organization dedicated to teaching the principles of evangelism and church growth to pastors all over the world, was established. A 10-story World Evangelical Center, an educational institution attached to the church, was opened on the 20th of January 1977. A television studio, opened on the 31st of December 1981, was built to broadcast the worship services both nationally and internationally. The Full Gospel Educational Research Institute, now the International Theological Institute, to promote evangelism and theological training. In January 1986, Elam Welfare Town, a facility for the elderly, the young, the homeless, and the unemployed, was set up under the auspices of the church. The latter would be given training and a choice of 4 occupations. In March of the same year, the church established Hansei University. Recent activities. In March 1996, the Soul Logos Company published a 21-volume collection of Pastor Cho's sermons, delivered over his ministry of 38 years. What the church regarded as a crowning honor came in September 1992, when Pastor Cho was elected chairman of the World Assemblies of God Fellowship. This was the first time that international leadership of the denomination of 50 million members in 60 countries had passed out of American hands. He served in this capacity until August 2000. Pastor Cho, now assisted by a total of 171 associate pastors and 356 lay pastors, continues to lead the Yoido Full Gospel Church, whose status as the world's largest congregation has been recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records. On February 20, 2014, Pastor Cho and his son were convicted of embezzling $12 million in church funds. The presiding judge once told Cho, "We know that this case is not your problem. You just need to blame it on your son, and you will have no responsibilities." Change wrote, adding that Cho refused. "My son can be unrighteous to me, but I cannot be unrighteous to my son." Quote. In June 2016, this incident became a non-prosecution because no suspicion